Welcome back, and joining us on the show now is Sabyasachi Majumdar. He's Senior VP and Group Head at ICRA Ratings. Sabyasachi, hi, good to have you. You know, when you look at budget and you also look at the agriculture sector, there are three top things that come to mind. One is clearly the doubling of farmers' income. That deadline is for 2022-23. The second thing is 5 states go for elections, and the agri-states like Punjab and UP are part of this. And then it is also about the farm laws being repealed. I mean, these three things are on mind as you get into this budget for agriculture.
Yeah, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, yes. Sabyasachi, I was saying that these are the three things that are top of the mind for agriculture as a sector. What's your sense on how would you put them as priority?
So right now, from the sectors that I particularly cover, I think the key issue really would be the fertilizer sector. Because as you are aware that urea, potash, as well as phosphatic fertilizers, the prices have really, gone up. And at this current point of time, given the existing subsidy level, import and supply of many of these fertilizers, particularly the phosphates and the potassic ones, will have become unviable. Fortunately, what had happened in the last financial year was that a large amount of fertilizer for the coming Rabi season planting was already acquired by the various trading and manufacturing companies. So to that extent, they did not have very significant under recoveries. But if we have to continue providing the P and K component of the fertilizer for the next year, we believe that the total budget outlay would have to increase to somewhere around 1,40,000 crores. And our understanding is that the government is also looking at a similar amount to ensure that there is no disruption of supply in the key fertilizers, whether N, P or K, for the next financial year. Particularly, since the Kharif season would start in June, and obviously, the various fertilizer companies would have to stock up in advance for that.
So you're expecting anywhere between 1,300 to 1,400 billion rupees, as you said, in sense of allocation. What was it last year? Was it at a one go? What are you expecting this year as well?
So last time also it was not in one go. They initially gave an amount, but there was a subsequent additional amount which was also given. But then we must remember that in the last year, the price escalation in many of these fertilizers, particularly P and K, happened in the middle of the year. So this year already we know that, P and K, in fact, all the three components, N, P and K, whether it's urea or DAP or MOP, they are already at very high levels. So certainly from the industry perspective, it will be very desirable that a very significant part of the subsidy is declared upfront.
Clearly. Also, import duty on fertilizers is yet another thing that has been under discussion. We've seen international fertilizer prices also continue to stay elevated. Are you expecting to hear anything on that aspect?
Yes. So ultimately, it is the government's choice. If they increase if they keep the duty level unchanged, then obviously they have to provide higher subsidy. So basically, you'd have a higher revenue, but also you'd have to give a higher, subsidy. On the other hand, if you reduce the duty rates, obviously the subsidy outgo also comes down. So from a net budget impact, it will be neutral from the government impact. Although the only thing is, if you decrease the this import duty upfront, obviously there's a lesser amount of working capital blockage with the agri companies.
Clearly. Sabyasachi, so, the pricing is going to be one part of it, but the government has also had its viewpoint on the balanced use of fertilizers as well. We've heard that in last couple of budgets. You think something could be heard yet again on that?
So, it's an ongoing process, of balancing out the NP and K. Obviously, we know that the NPK ratios are not very balanced. But given the farmer preference from nitrogen and the fact that you do need a lot of it to boost early growth, and the fact that urea is the cheapest fertilizer and the farmer is used to paying a relatively small price, we think that, this could be a relatively slow process. It's not something that's going to drastically change in 1 year. There are other initiatives, of course, with the agri companies also taking up, like getting into more of nano urea, things like nano urea, which are much more efficient in the delivery of nitrogen. So parallelly, those kind of initiatives will also go on to, try to address the NPK imbalance.
All right, thanks a lot, Mr. Majumdar and Manisha, for giving us that update. But, the attention is back to the equity markets. There's been a fresh sell-off in the equity markets. The Nifty is now threatening to break that 17,900 mark this morning. It broke below that 18,000 mark, and the Sensex too is just hovering around that 60,000 mark. This fresh